Welcome to Wellness Real Estate TV and the Wellness Real Estate Podcast. Today, we're exploring a game-changing opportunity in real estate, one that most agents and investors don't even realize they're missing. Our guest, Desiree Dubois, is a trailblazer in real estate syndication, redefining how people invest, live, and work. As the founder and CEO of HomWork, she's created a revolutionary platform that blends co-working and co-living. Imagine Airbnb meets WeWork, but with an investment opportunity built in. Desiree has spent over 3 decades in real estate investing, private lending, and syndications, raising millions and turning properties into thriving, purpose-driven communities. Now she's launching a $10 million fund with Outsite to expand HomWork across North America, offering incredible opportunities for passive investors and digital nomads alike. If you're a real estate agent tired of chasing commissions, stick around because you're about to discover how to build wealth in real estate without buying a single home. Let's grow. Welcome to Wellness Real Estate TV and the podcast, your go-to source for fresh, lead-generating marketing strategies. If you're ready to stand out, attract clients, and position yourself as a trusted community expert who leads with care, you're in the right place. With the wellness real estate market projected to hit $850 billion by 2027, now's the time to tap into this movement. I'm Sheila Alston. I'm the founder of Healthy Home Media, and I help agents like you leverage this growing trend to spark engagement, generate more leads, and increase sales so you can become the community connector you're meant to be. Let's grow. Today, I have Desiree Dubois from HomWork.com on the show, and we're going to be talking about real estate syndications and how you, as a real estate expert, can be able to acquire property and build a portfolio of real estate without your own money or credit. That's pretty exciting. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much. I'm excited about what we can share today because there's so many realtors or real estate professionals out there that I know want to that's part of their plan was to build their legacy. So this is
Yeah. No, it's an exciting topic. And we just did record a podcast episode on the Well Life, which is our sister channel that's really for more consumers. So we talked about what syndications are and if you wanted to be an investor, what that looks like. But maybe just to briefly say, what is a syndication, just for those listening who haven't heard that episode?
Sure. Syndication is simply when a pool of people put their funds together to acquire a property. Are we talking about real estate? But there are also syndications for, again, a yacht or for a race car, or they're actually the racehorse secretariat was syndicated. So it could be for anything. But today we'll concentrate on real estate. Get a group of people from 5 to 500. They'll put the money together to be able to buy an asset.
Oh, okay. So that's awesome. And so why is this a good thing for a real estate agent to
It's
be looking
perfect
into?
for a real estate agent because one, you have access to the listings. Many times
Mm,
real estate agents are already finding properties for investor type clients or people who
mhm.
want to buy a value add, but you have access to the listings, access to the inventory. And then you have knowledge about the real estate, the process, the escrow, the title, the insurance, the closing. You are very knowledgeable about that whole process, so it's much easier for you as opposed to someone don't. Another reason is that you already have a clientele that know, likes, and trusts you in that real estate industry. So they believe if you say this is a good deal and you show them the comps, you're able to, have access to the resources like comparables and appraisals and things like that to be able to show them this is a good deal. So it's perfect. Even more so now when there's a lot of this change in the commission structure. Because I was with a realtor yesterday and she's negotiating. She lost a deal because the seller only wants to pay the agent 1.5%. So the agent
Mm,
will go to another listing that's going to pay her 2.5%. Why
mhm.
same amount of work. So a lot of agents are saying, how can I, if I can't really find, if I'm not really the listing agent, I work with a lot of buyers, how can I find other ways to be able to build my legacy and my portfolio in real estate as well as make money in the process?
Yeah. So for those people who didn't listen to the episode, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into syndication.
I've been involved in real estate since 1989. First, I was an
Mhm.
agent, and then later as a broker, and then as a syndicator and investor for over that 20 years. And I got involved because I wanted to buy property, and the commissions we make the commissions, but it's usually enough for us to live off of. We spend that money as soon as we before we
Okay.
So I could see that there was no way for me to get chunk money. So I'd find a deal. And in order for me to participate in it, I said, okay, I'll get the commission coming in, but I would do the work of the property. And then I would get different investors to pull the money together. We'd buy it, and then I do the work to fix it up, and then we would sell it. They get their percentage, I get my percentage, and I get another commission for the sales. See, as an agent, you get paid not only through the syndication, but you get paid for the real estate commissions. So if you
Mhm.
really want some listings, this is one way to be able to get a listing and being able to get a sale commission. So that's how I got started. And then I started building it up myself, and that was how I was able to build a portfolio. And I didn't have to use any of my own money or credit because the syndicators bring the money. And you can either, if you qualify for the loan, great. But if not, one of the syndicators can also, your investors rather, can qualify for the loan. They're called the guarantor. And they either get a flat fee or they get a percentage of the deal or they get a larger percentage of the equity split when it's sold as a guarantor. So people are out there doing just that, being guarantors for projects that are being syndicated. So that's how you can do it without needing your own money or credit.
Yeah, that's awesome. But how do you actually, once you sell it, then you don't have the property anymore? How do you build actual portfolio of property, or is this property that's just always going to be bought and sold?
Perfect question. Perfect question. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can either take the money, the equity. So when you do the syndication, you basically have a price. As a syndicator, you get paid as a realtor, you get paid the commission. You also get paid a acquisition fee. That's a percentage. That percentage ranges between 1% and 5%. The average is like 2 or 3%, depends on your experience and depends on how big the project is. So when you acquire the property, you get paid that fee. And then when you maintain the property, you get a management fee. So again, that could either be from the profits that come through every month, or it could be a flat fee that's designated for that, or it could be a percentage.
Mhm.
If you do the guaranteeing of the loan, you get a guarantor's fee. And again, that can be 1 to 5%. So if you're guaranteeing the loan, that could be 2% of the loan amount. You'll get paid that. When you exit, if there's any construction or that needs to be done, even though you're not necessarily a contractor, but if you are, organizing that, you get that contracting fee. So that could be a percentage as well. Then when you are ready to liquidate the property, there's two ways, primary ways. It's called a capital event. And that
Mhm.
can be either selling the property. And when you go into this agreement, you decide what your percentage is. You have your syndicators, which are your GP, your general partners. And then you have your investors, which are LPs, your limited partners. Now you decide what the equity that we make, is it going to be 50-50? Is it going to be 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10? Whatever it is that you decide, again, depending on your experience and on the project, you get that percentage of the profits. So the profits $1 million and you're doing 10%, that's $100,000. If
Mhm.
you're doing 30%, that's $300,000,
Mhm.
right? So you can either take that money along with all the fees that you've made along the way in the beginning, during the process, and at the end, capital event, or you can say, I'm going to pay off all the investors,
Mhm.
refinance the property, pay them off, and now I can keep the property. So that percentage that I would be putting down, like that 10% or that 20% or that
Mhm.
30%, I would be taking the cash out. I say
Mhm.
the cash out, I'm going to put that in the property or keep that in the property. Now the investors are whole, they're happy,
Mhm.
they're gone, but now you have a property that's
Wow.
and you've had the property either from 1 to 5 years, is usually the normal time, 3 years. So it's already seasoned. You always worked out the kinks. You've already developed a clientele. You already built the market. You've built a cash flow. You built a value in it. You've got all those things in place. Now you have a property that now you own with whatever loan is left on the property that you had none of your money and none of your credit for.
That's amazing. It's actually really brilliant, isn't it?
The thing is, it's totally 100% legal. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing shady about it. It could
Right.
happen in a year. Some people do
Yeah.
fix and flips that way. They go to
Yeah.
the property, they decide what percentage everybody gets, so everybody's happy. They fix it up, they resell it or they refinance it, which is like that burr, buy it,
Mhm.
renovate it. And then they keep the property and they have the tenants in there and they keep going to the next, the next, the next. If you just did one a year for 5 years,
Mhm.
in certain markets like the California market where the properties are
Mhm.
expensive, then you'd be set. You'd have
Mm-hmm.
enough residual, passive income that to be able to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I tell people, I said, look for a 5-year plan. And if you can do
Mm-hmm.
one syndication a year, either small ones or large ones, whatever it is, and in 5 years, do your numbers, you'll be able to be set.
Wow. Well, the reason why I think it's brilliant is because it's sort of a win-win for everybody, right? It's a win-win for investors because you're giving them more than what the market can, the stock market does. And it's a
Exactly.
win-win for the agent who's already putting together a lot of these deals for other people.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Right?
And that's how I heard about it. The agent was complaining about, I'm going to sell, I have a little condo, I'm going to sell, it's cash flowing so I can get into the game because I'm buying all these, finding these properties for the investors. They buy it, they fix it up and they sell it and I get the commission. So would you sell a cash flowing property? Why don't you just syndicate it? The next deal you find, syndicate it yourself. You've got access
Yeah.
to investors. You know how to do this. You have access to the deals. So again, you're more knowledgeable than the average person. And so realtors, again, because a lot of realtors, as you know, don't make a large income because it's so
Yeah.
inconsistent. A lot of the times they're doing it on a part-time basis. A lot of them don't even know, or almost 80% of them don't own their own primary residence.
Hmm.
And that's usually the purpose that a lot of people get into real estate. Even for me, I got in there because I wanted to build my own portfolio. But again, like the commissions just wasn't enough. They didn't come fast
Hmm.
enough or big enough, or they
Hmm.
kept dissipating. So I said, how am I going to build my portfolio and then as a realtor, it's very hard to qualify for these loans. Again,
Hmm.
because your revenue is not consistent.
Hmm.
So unless you're in a higher, income bracket, you can't qualify for a loan and you don't have the down payment. So this is how you can do it with other people. And like you said, the investors are great because they want to invest in real estate. They're making anywhere, most of the time, the returns are between 8 to 20%. So it's outbeating, the stock markets and their retirement funds. They can use their retirement funds with no tax complications at all, no tax penalties. If somebody has money in their retirement comes a self-directed IRA with a 401k, they can use those monies to buy real estate, Bitcoin, notes, startup companies, everything. And there's no tax penalty because the passive dividends go back into their retirement funds. So when everything is said and done, they have a larger retirement fund. So you have the
Wow.
investors are happy, they're making good money, they're just self-directing their money, you're happy, and whoever the buyer seller is happy.
That's amazing. So, okay, before we go into qualifications and things, I want to touch on your niche because your specific niche is so interesting. So maybe you can tell us about that.
Sure, we're in the co-working, co-living, and that seems to be that's our market because it just came out of my desire. My kids, I became an empty nester, and I
Mhm.
said, well, I want it in a house, but I want to take care of it all by myself, and I don't want to have to worry about getting house sitters and plant sitters and things like that. So I'll share it with a couple people. So I did the first model here in San Diego. It was 4 bedrooms and 4 baths, and then I did it, and that's okay. This is working great. The pandemic happened, so everything had to pause for a minute. During that time, I started saying, well, what about if I do it for a 12 unit, a boutique hotel? And then we found one boutique hotel in San Diego. We found another one in Cabo. We were at one yesterday in Joshua Tree. It was 14 room boutique hotel. So the numbers obviously work better. But again, I just started doing larger and larger. And again, some people say, well, Desiree, you still have to come up with some money for your down payment or for your legal fees and things like that type. There's ways that you can do that as well. You have a round, like your founders round, and maybe you
Mhm.
give them like a percent more or some other perk that you give them for them to come in the beginning.
Okay, I have to pause just for a second because someone rang my doorbell. So hold on to that. Hopefully, hold on.
I
Go
didn't.
ahead.
So sometimes the people agents will say, well, that's where I need some money down because I need the down payment. I need the earnest money and the legal fees and so forth. You can syndicate that, create like a founders round. So maybe you give those first people in, that will just invest before you get to that point. Then they give them a percentage, maybe a percentage more, or give them some kind of perk to be that. And you use those funds to get your legal fees and get up and started. I syndicated HomWork. When I started the business, it was going to be cash intensive because I had to get a house and so forth, but I had nothing. So I did convertible promissory notes where I raised $250,000, no real estate as equity, no dividends paid. They simply invested in the idea. And they get
Wow.
paid when I sell the company. They'll get a paid in either 9 or 10% interest when I sell the company on their amount. So now it's still accruing, and it's been over 5 years. So I have no payments to them. I have no commitment until I get ready to exit the company, and then I owe them that money. So people will do it on an idea. You can start off
Wow.
of the idea. So, so if you got a dream there, that's one way of doing it.
That's amazing. So maybe let's talk about qualifications. How could someone who's maybe interested in learning about this, what are the qualifications or experience that they need to be a syndicator?
The good news is that if you don't have all the qualifications and experience yourself, then you can have a partner team. So you
Mhm.
want to know about real estate. That's why realtors are so perfect. They know the terminology, they know real estate, and they've bought a house or they've sold a house with hopes that they have done that. Um, Other than that, you don't, we have a class called Syndication Simplified. It's a weekend workshop, starts on Friday, ends on Monday morning. And then we have a 6-week follow from there. We teach you all that we do. The
Mhm.
good news about it, we don't only talk about it, but you actually in that class will find a property. We tell you how to source properties. You will do the numbers in the property, how to analyze the numbers, and then how to create a deck. What elements need to be in the deck that you present to potential investors, and then you actually present it to the class, so we can get some feedback as to what the feedback is, more pictures, more stats, more this, more that, and then you get to present it. And then we follow up on that property and be able to contact the realtors. And some people within 60 days have been able to acquire. One person, he just recently finished in 60 days. He had a 18 unit property in Northridge for $3.1 million.
Wow.
None of his own money or credit. He didn't have it. He was a
Wow.
realtor. He was a realtor. He got one of his contractor friends to partner with him and did that. So if you have real estate experience, great.
Mhm.
You may want to bring somebody on your team that maybe has great sales experience if they're good at presenting. If you're not good at presenting, another person doesn't speak the English language that well, so he doesn't make a good presenter. So he brought on his team person that really is good at sales or presenting, has great personality. So when they do the presentations, they have them. Maybe you want, if you're going to do a lot of projects that require construction, maybe bringing someone as a contractor on your team. We've brought people like we want the military is a great market for investors. They have funds, retirement funds, and a lot of them don't know what to do with them, and they're really busy and preoccupied. So we bring someone from the military and we give them a percentage. You share your percentage with them, but you obviously gain what they are bringing to the table. So all you need to do is know our class, we go through the biggest thing is the legal. And we talked about the 11 Ds. Because people can say, well, Desiree, I can just go to an attorney and get them to do the documents. No, you need to tell the attorney what you want in those documents. You need to tell them what your percentage is. You need to tell them what you want to pay, whether it's going to pay out dividends monthly, quarterly, annually, or none. You need to tell him what percentage at the end, your equity split. You need to tell him what your percentage is going to be. I mean, you need to tell them all the underwriting how you want it to be set up. The 11 Ds are what happens if there's a divorce, either in your camp or in your investors. If there's a dissolution of the syndications, what happens then? If there's a death, if someone disappears, if someone's deceptive, like lies about the information and so forth, whether they're a credit or non-accredited investor. If someone is a bad character, they're charged with, forgery or murder or conspiracy. With all these different situations, you need to be able to go to the attorney and tell them to fill in those blanks. So that's what we cover in the class. And otherwise, I say it's easier to become a syndicate than it's become a manicurist. You don't you don't have to take classes and tests and licenses. You don't need any of that.
Yeah, just as long as you have a rule book and you know what to do in these situations. That's
Exactly.
awesome. So how can a real estate agent position themselves as a valuable partner? I mean, just because they know the deals, is that enough to be able to, get people to come in on your syndication?
I think if they have experience and can
Hmm.
demonstrate they've done this and they've done that, even if it's not necessarily, say, for example, it wasn't their investment deal, but they say, found this property for this investor, they brought it for this dollars and they sold it for this dollar. They're able to show some level of expertise. Either they're good at sourcing the property or they're good at managing it, or, otherwise it's just really a matter. investors are looking for the deals, the dollars, like what's the
Mhm.
percentage? And so that's their number one thing. But more importantly is the credibility in
Mhm.
this indicator, because it is a risk. You're trusting that the
Mhm.
person's going to do a good job. So if they see that you have done things in the past and that you know what you're doing and that you're credible, then they will invest with you because they say they're betting on the jockey, not necessarily the horse. If the deal could be good, but if the jockey is bad, it's not going to make a difference. They're going to lose. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to present to them that one, you're ethical, you're, honest, you're forthright, you're whatever, but then also that you have the experience to be able to make things happen in a timely manner.
Mhm.
So if you say it's going to be 3 years, then be 3 years. What happened, people get into these development deals, which I would not recommend for anyone up front because you have so little control over when the deal is going to be completed. But
Mhm.
start with something small. Start with a, fix and flip or a condo or, just something small to get your under your belt. So ask, how many syndications have you done? Another great way is to participate on other people's syndications. We usually have at least two people that are on our team because they want to be able to use that in their portfolio. They want to be able to have that syndication under their belt, but they don't not ready to do the whole syndication by themselves. So you can partner with us, you can partner with other syndicators. That way you kind of work through it. Another
Mhm.
great way is to invest in a syndication. That only gives you one side of it, but it does give you a lot of information on the paperwork that's involved, the structure, the
Mhm.
timing. You know how an investor feels, because
Mhm.
you're in their shoes. So that makes you sensitive to what you're going to present to your potential investors. So take a class, get information, participate in one, either at the intern, and they get a very small amount, maybe they get 1% of the deal, but it's okay.
Mhm.
They're doing it for the experience and they're doing it for to be able to say, yes, I've been in these many syndications to build that trust. And then they're able to start on their own.
Yeah. Well, so then would you recommend, I mean, do you think they perform better or they can get more investors when there's a team that's a syndicator or when there's an individual
No,
agent?
there's a team, especially if there's somebody else who's either been in, because you hear them say collectively we have over 40 years of experience.
Mhm.
So that could be maybe 8 years of theirs, but maybe it's 12 years of somebody else and 20
Mhm.
years of somebody else. So you need you need the reputation. You need to be able to have that to going for you. Because again, people are not going to give the money for you to start off an experiment with something. Your
Yeah.
friends and family may, but they're not going to
Yeah.
put hard-earned money, $50,000 to someone who's never done it before and know
Mhm.
about doing it. So give up part of that pie, and to get that credibility and do with the team. And if you're gonna, if better to do it with someone who's done syndications before. If you're all new, that will help in the sense that you got more experience on the table, but it's not going to help the syndication go easier. So I would partner with somebody that's done syndications, that's doing syndications, so hang on their experience and be able to say, I've done, this syndication with them and they've done 5 syndications and they've had this many exits and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Um, and or get people that have been in the experience. And that's not that difficult to find. I think you just have to be willing to give up a little in the beginning because they're going to
Yeah.
pay for their participation, but something, percentage of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think agents need to look for good investors or co-sponsors? How do they search for those?
Investors. I
Mhm.
think the thing is that it depends on how you promote it. Again,
Mhm.
many times you have a database, and the more people you bring on your team, that you combine the database. So,
Mhm.
obviously, if you have 500 and they have 500, now you've doubled your access. You look for people that are looking that has access to funds, either through their retirement funds or through savings. It depends on your market, what your niche is, if it's multi-residential, if it's, nursing homes, if it's short-term rentals, like I mean, for um, ah, co-working, co-living like we are, we do that because of the fact that it's about 30% more profitable than all the
Mhm.
other asset classes out there, especially now because the commercial properties leases are down post-COVID. And a lot of even apartment rentals is the rental income is different than the short-term rental income. So that's why we do that. But you find someone that's interested in that market. So find out where people you think your clientele or your asset reach is interested in. Your sphere of influence. Are they mostly interested in residential, multi-residential? Again, campgrounds, land, it can be done for anything. And then reach that market. You can also, once you've exhausted your circle of influence, you can do presentations, you can do meetups, you can go to real estate groups and do presentations. If you do an accredited one, where you only for accredited investors, you can advertise them on social media, you can advertise them in the newspapers. So again, it depends on whether you do one for non-accredited investors or for accredited investors as to how you can promote it. There's many ways of doing it. And then you get something small, so you don't need as many. If you get something for $10 million, you'll need a lot of investors. But if you get something for 500,000, you may need 5 investors at 100,000 or 6 investors at 50,000. Much easier to accomplish, much easier to get in and get out of.
Right. So if someone was building an ideal team, you touched a little bit on this by saying maybe you get a contractor or someone who speaks really well. What would be the ideal team in your mind if someone was just thinking about, oh, who do I know that could maybe partner with me in becoming a syndicator?
I think I'll use us as an example. For us, as
Mhm.
large databases.
Mhm.
So that has a sphere of influence. That,
Mhm.
military, that's a large database. If you're tapped,
Mhm.
you have a lot of meetups and things that are available just for them. If we were looking for, we have partnered with a company called Outsite, as I mentioned,
Mhm.
and they are filled, they have members, over 5,000 members that are interested in co-working, co-living, that are digital nomads and remote workers. So that's a partner for us, and he's been one of the people on our team for this project. You partner with people that can expand your reach, that can either bring knowledge, bring people, or bring money to the
Mhm.
table.
Mhm. So important.
Yes.
Okay, so if is this, you tell me if this question's going into the weeds a little bit too much, but I'm wondering what are the essential legal and financial steps in launching a syndication?
What you do is the first thing you would do is you'd contact an attorney, and
Mhm.
we create a corporation. LLC is perfect.
Mhm.
Usually you
Mhm.
do two LLCs, one LLC with a management team for all the managers, the general partners, and then you have another LLC for the investors. Because they the LLC, one owns the other, and the investors are separate. It depends on how many properties you're doing and so forth, but that's what you have, LLC. Then you go to, an attorney does that for you. Then he puts together your PPM, which is private placement memorandum, which has a lot of details. All of these have many more pages than it needs. It's just a
Mhm.
lot of repetition. Then your operating agreement is really important because it tells your potential investor, your limited partner, how you intend to operate, where the
Mhm.
funds are going to go, when they're going to get paid back, how much they're going to get paid, who is part of the plan, and even their credentials. Anyone that's part of your team has to submit credit reports, your credibility, as well as they have to make sure that they don't, if there's a bad actor form, which means if they have any lawsuits or any legal, anything out there that has to
Mhm.
be disclosed. So they go through that process. Then you have your operating agreement, and you have your subscription agreement, which again spells out the details, when you're going to get paid, how much you're going to get paid, what the interest rate is, and what happens if this happens and this happens. You get those
Mhm.
five primary information together. Then you would start preparing a deck, which is,
Mhm.
all the pictures and all the details and stuff, you find a property. And then you would start presenting that. You schedule, go through your database, inviting people to presentations. We do Zoom presentations. We do presentations where we have dinners, presentation dinners, or
Mhm.
lunches, or breakfasts, or we'll do like a meet and greet just to give people overviews of it. And then
Mhm.
for those who are interested, we invite them to a private one-on-one webinar. So again, it depends on the size of your project and
Mhm.
depends on how your clientele, your potential investors respond. If they're
Mhm.
people all over the world, then you actually can use the Zoom and it can be done that way. Then at some point you want an accountant when you get the property. After you get the property, acquire the property, you want an accountant to be able to work through the numbers. Accounting is very important because you're trying to be transparent to your investors. So
Mhm.
some people report their P&Is every month, every quarter, every year. Some people don't at all. But they
Mhm.
have investor meetings, like we have investor quarterly meetings, updates, what we're working on, what new properties we have, what we're doing. We don't get really a lot into our financials because we just prefer not to, but you can do that. Some people do all of that at the same time. And that's it, really. I mean, then you offer your money. You go open escrow, you close escrow, you maintain the property, do what needs to be done to maintain it for your management team, if you're probably going to manage or self-manage. And then you just watch the market. And as soon as it becomes profitable, you get ready for your close. You get you prepare the property for closing. You get an agent, you sell it, or if you're an agent yourself, of course, you put it on the market, you sell it, and you split the profits. And then your attorney will do the final paperwork, your accountant will do the final distributions, and you're off and running to the next.
That's amazing. Okay, so I know they can probably just come to one of your workshops and learn all of the details, but maybe for those listening, what are maybe some big mistakes they should just how can they avoid some of these big mistakes?
Big mistake is fact is that not having all your details memorialized in your contracts. Like some people think they can do it themselves, or they don't need to go to an attorney. It does cost, between 15 and $30,000, depends on who you use. We have great attorneys that will give you anyone that works with us will give them great discounts. But the big mistake is not doing that because then you leave yourself wide open because you don't have those things spelled out. Like what happens if someone gets a divorce and now his wife wants the dividends to come to her or the profits come to her as opposed to the husband. You haven't had that addressed. So that's the biggest mistake is not having it legally. Another big mistake is not having it registered with the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission. Again, that's optional. But it's just like if they protect you and it protects your investor. So you have to remember if your investor is protected, then you're protected. If they're not protected, then you're not protected. And so when you talk about people's money, they can get pretty ambitious about it. If they want to see you, then they do. Another thing you want to do is have each property, each syndication separate. We have like one syndication for each property. Now we do have a fund, and the difference is a fund is that you can have multiple properties in that fund, but we still have different LLCs of each property. And that way you don't commingle the counting, you don't commingle the funds. So if somebody has a problem with one property, it won't bring down the whole fund. So you make sure that every syndication is individual so that a different corporation, a different entity. So if there's an accident or there's a problem with one, it doesn't affect everything that you've touched. So if you get an attorney, a syndication attorney, a securities attorney, not a divorce attorney, not a PI attorney, a securities attorney that specializes in security. These are securities that you're selling, securities in a asset. Attorney, and then get your accounting so that you know your numbers are going to work out. And then make sure you register the SEC and that you just be honest and upright. There's enough money. You may win some, you may lose some. If that happens in any deal, but if you really do your underwriting correctly and add room for error, like we always had reserves, and have enough reserves so if you have a pandemic or something happens out of your control, you're able to hold on to the properties that you have. But that's basically if you cover yourself,
Right.
cover yourself, then you'll be fine.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. So maybe just you could give us an example of one of your properties and give us maybe some numbers or profitability from a real estate agent standpoint. Like what's the potential
Oh
that
my
they
gosh,
can look for?
I have actually a great slide for that. I have a perfect slide that breaks it down.
Okay, so great. You're going to share your screen. And for anybody who's just listening on a podcast, run over to YouTube. I'll put the link in there so that you can actually see these numbers because I think it's really helpful.
Fantastic. So you can see my screen now, correct?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we're starting with a $2 million property because that's kind of common in California, but it obviously could be 200,000, could be any number that you like. And you purchase it, and we're going for the 4-year exit at $4 million. So as a realtor, we have 6% here, but again, just adjust the numbers as it makes sense for you. 3% is $60,000 you get from off the top when you close escrow. But then I also talked about the acquisition fee. And I mentioned the acquisition fee is between 1 and 5%. So all these are done at the low end. So even at 2%, when you close escrow, you'll get $40,000 based on this number. So now you already have $100,000 you've made just by closing escrow on this deal. If you are being the loan guarantor, and again, working on the low end, at 2% of the loan amount would be $28,000. If you would decide to do the asset management fees, it could be a flat fee or again, it could be a percentage. We just went with a $2,000 a month flat fee, $24,000 a year times 4 years is $96,000. That's during the process. Operational income. Now that can be either sometimes you get a fee plus the income. If you operate and your rentals are high and you have extra, you can have operational income. But we just put it as a flat fee again, a very low amount of $2,000 times 4% is another $96,000. You also factor in your technology fee. These are the fees for your websites, for your PowerPoints, for your CRMs, for your investor relation technology, $14,000 a year. Your admin fee, okay, you're going to have a digital, virtual assistant or an assistant. Again, very low amount, only a couple $1,000s a month. And then now when you're ready to sell the property, your disposition fee, that's just based on the $4 million at 2%, and that's $80,000. And now say, for example, you decided your equity was going to be 400,000. You're going to split it. I think this was done at 60/40, but say your percentage of the profits at the end is 400,000. This is $783,000. And we haven't factored if there's a construction management fee, 3% of the construction costs. So between your fees of the syndication itself, between your realtor fees and construction management fees, then you haven't even factored that into the seven. So you're close to over $800,000 just for doing one transaction and in a 4-year period of time.
Wow.
Now,
And with these numbers, the investors are still earning a good
yes, absolutely.
return.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and you don't only do it if the investors are making a good return. This is
Yeah.
our targeted returns are 20%. So they double their money in 5 years. So they're doubling their money in 5 years. They're not going to be worried about these fees. If you're able to double your money, I don't care what you take, as long as you can double my money, just like for a commission. They don't care what you sell the property for, as long as, I mean, as long as they get what they need to net, that's what works out for them. So that's not a problem for them at all. And you disclose it up front so they see it. So it's not a secret. It's just all in your operating agreement on your documents. But the next thing is that you asked me earlier about what if you wanted to keep the property. So we use a $2.5 million property and we're going to refinance it with 4 years at an exit at $4 million. So here again, your commissions coming is 3%, that's 75,000. Your commission going is 3%, 120. Again, even if you adjusted that, it's still a great transaction. Construction management fees, if there's anything to be done, that's 3% of the construction cost. But let's go back to your acquisition fees. Always acquisition fees, always between 1% and 5%. So again, if you're going to have like now 2 or 3 different people on your GPs on your team, then you may make that 3% because you got experience on your team. It's based on basically your experience in the projects. So, but otherwise 2%, 50,000. Your loan guarantor, if you do it, if you don't guarantee the loan, you can pay a loan guarantor that $25,000, or you can pay that loan guarantor a flat fee. I have one loan guarantor say, I just want to be able to use the property 1 month a year. He does very high-end retreats, and he can make more in 1 month, that makes it worth his while. So there's all different ways of negotiating that. Your asset management fees, again, whoever's going to be manage your asset, whether it's you or somebody else, it's a very small amount for this asset. Operational income, again, we just put a flat $30,000 a year, not a lot of money, and it's under 20,000. Technology fee, we have 15,000. Your admin fee is 30,000. And now a refinance fee. If you've done refinancing, you know that's a lot of work. You gotta get documents, appraisals, all kinds of things. So you get paid the 42% refinance fee. So if it's you or if it's your loan guarantor, somebody gets paid a fee for going through that trouble. Now your equity, once you do your equity split, is 480. And so your total you've made is $498,000. So you can take that for equity in cash and run with it, or you can say, I'm going to use that and put that back into the property or leave that into the property and pay all the investors out, and you'll have everything besides that amount, but you've already made the other money, but now you have the property free. Now you have the property yourself. The investors are paid off, all the fees are paid, you've gotten paid along the way in the becoming, but now your equity, instead of you pulling it out, you leave it into the property, and now you have a property that's in your portfolio.
Yeah, and I would imagine that once you have done one or two of these things, then you're having, as far as a loan person, is when he's looking at this, he's going to say that you have more consistent income, so you're able to qualify for a better rate and
Yes.
a
Yeah.
loan on the property as well.
Yes. Yes. And or you'll have more money that you can put down, because you've done a
Hmm.
couple, you keep if you kept the money. But
Hmm.
if you're doing the refinance, it's easier to refinance a property than it is to, obviously
Hmm.
to buy it outright for a purchase. So if you're being able to show a good payment record, like you said, and you've
Hmm.
properties of value that has appreciated, and you have the income, you've been able to show your NOI, you got your profit and loss statements, your income that's coming in, your expenses, your losses, you have a good numbers, then you'll be able to qualify for it on your own.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, okay, so then the last few questions I have for you is just considering the whole wellness real estate movement, how does
Mhm.
sustainability or wellness real estate fit into the co-living syndications?
Well, what do you mean as far as like being the wellness,
Well,
the co-working?
so, we haven't even really talked about that. But wellness, I mean, co-living, I know the answer is that that's a whole wellness real estate thing. Wellness real estate is really about forward-thinking developers who are building communities that are intentionally designed to help people live better, be healthier, whatever it is. And a lot of them are agrihoods where they're farm to table living, but that doesn't mean that they're all agrihoods. I kind of fit what you're doing into this wellness real estate space because you're allowing people to not only work from home, but not be lonely, right? To be in a community where they're together and they can, it frees them up from having to own a home if they don't want to own a home, and they can still, feel like they're traveling the world and working at the same time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, HomWork, the name of our company is, our tagline is where you can live where you work where you live, anywhere in the world. And
Mhm.
yes, one of the big things the problems that we solve is loneliness. Especially post-pandemic, a lot of people realize that they need to be around people. And especially since a lot of people now are able to work remotely. So great, you're able, even if it's a hybrid part and part, you're able to work at home, but you're alone at home. So that many times you miss the stimulation, you miss the conversation, you miss the friendships. So this allows people to have privacy when they need it, because all of our properties have their own bedrooms and bathrooms. But the company when you want it. We have co-working spaces, and they could go to a kitchen space or a community room space, a lounge area, so they can actually just go in minutes, be around other people, making friendships, making contacts. We've had a couple that actually, had a baby as a result of it. We have people creative partnerships. We have people that decide to get an apartment together, a house together. So the relationships, the community is one of the biggest factors here. Because if you're not interested in community, this is not really going to be set up for you. But then also economically, it's much less expensive. So if you were to live alone, you're going to pay all the utilities, you pay your Wi-Fi, you pay for all of that, even your toilet tissue and your paper towels, you're paying for your soaps, everything. All this is included. So all your essentials, your towels, your sheets, your linens, your basic coffees and teas and things of that type are all included. So it's much more economical to be able to go into our facilities. You have a fixed price that you're going to pay. So whether it's monthly or weekly or daily, it's a fixed price and it includes everything. So you can control your budget. Also, the fact that it gives you an opportunity to be able to work different places. If you have to go to a co-working area, a lot of people, okay, they work remotely, they go to a WeWork or other co-working areas, you're going to pay for those fees. This is all included inside that. So you have the community, you have the economy, and then it's also safer, especially if you're willing to travel. If you're traveling by yourself, even with a couple, when you're going to these new different cities, just to know where to go, where not to go, or to be able to go with somebody, that's huge. And to be able to learn different things. There's people from all over the world. Many times at any given time, we'll have like 5 or 6 languages at our dinner table. So being able to connect and get that collaboration, do yoga classes together. We have community managers that goes on to events. They went to a Padres game last month together. So you're not, again, having, even if it's a couple, we have couples that have traveled and they say, well, we've just been with us for the last couple of months. We'd like to meet and talk and interact with other people, with
Mhm.
game nights, with taco nights, taco Tuesdays, with karaoke nights. It's things that bring people together. So it's a great lifestyle, allows you to travel safely, affordability, and then we create the products that we use are eco-friendly. So even our
Mhm.
sheets are bamboo and the towels and the detergents that we use and the soaps that we use and shampoos, they're all eco-friendly. So it allows you to be able to make that kind. Even our laundry, we
Mhm.
use soap nuts, which are much more environmentally friendly. So it
I
just
hope
kind
you're promoting that on the outside. Even I was talking to another agent who was actually, they have a client who's very mold sensitive. And we were talking about, how can we support that person if they were looking for a rental or looking for something? And I thought, there's got to be some Airbnbs or something if they needed to stay short term that would say that they have done extra testing for mold and things like that. So people can feel confident in knowing that they're not going to be, contaminated if they're extra sensitive about
yeah,
those things. So,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
That's so cool. So I do have a question. I know that you mentioned your process in becoming a syndicator, that it was because of your idea of wanting to live with some other people and not. And so if you are someone who's a syndicator, can you create a property where you actually live in it and you're like the manager or
You can. My
yeah.
personal advice to that would be is to not.
Okay.
And only because I learned the hard way myself.
Yeah, yeah.
What happens is that now that it's probably be different if you have properties where you're separated, like some of them you have boutique hotels, like the one in Joshua Tree, they're
Uh-huh.
individual bridges or
Uh-huh.
bungalows, as you may call it. So you have
Uh-huh.
a bungalow. Because if you're in the same house, like some of ours are like a property where all 12 bedrooms or 12 bedrooms and it's a common kitchen, then people just unconsciously think that you're on all the time. You're working, you're a manager all
Yeah.
the time. So if you're trying to sit and watch a TV show and they come in and say, well, my this is that and this is that, it was just harder to direct them. Well, call this number and the manager
Yeah.
will handle it tomorrow between 9 and 5 or whatever the case. Otherwise, you're working 24/7. But if you have your own space, you can just kind of close the door and
Mhm.
just have all the calls after a certain hour go to voicemail or someplace else, then that'd be one way. But it's definitely a way to being able to start. Like the property
Mhm.
yesterday, I was saying, I love that property, and there's like some of those units are so beautiful. I'd stay in there. Uh,
Mhm.
but again, just making sure that you have that separation so you're not on all the time. But some
Yeah.
people don't mind that either. Some people do. They live in apartment buildings and they manage apartment buildings and they don't mind that. So if you don't mind that, then it's perfect for you. A great way for you to be able to have your own accommodations and be able to accommodate others and make money on the
Yeah.
be able to manage a property. But if you want some
Well,
privacy,
yeah. I love that you just have all this knowledge and this experience. So if people can come to one of your events or can they just go to your website and maybe download something free first for the first step?
yes, yes, we do have a presentation like that has those numbers that I just showed you. That's part
Hmm.
of the syndication simplified package.
Hmm.
So I will make sure that you'll get that link and they can be able to download that and go and download the syndication simplified, which tells them the basics of it. And,
Hmm.
again, a lot of people, I think the biggest mistake some people make again is thinking that it's um, that they can do it on their own. You wouldn't
Hmm.
do anything that's going to render you millions of dollars so to have that potential on your own.
Hmm.
So just get some kind of training, whether it's with us, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of training out there.
Yeah.
Videos and things of that type, but it's not hands-on training. Our training is only 6 people at a time. It's in
Hmm.
the property, so we're 24/7 we're on, and it's just high level and it's personal. But get some training so you know what you're doing because your potential investors will well, they'll poke through as you would as a potential.
Hmm.
Investor. They'll poke
Hmm.
through everything, and you don't want to lose them just because you haven't covered something that's essential.
So if someone is living on the East Coast and they're interested in this, do you help people that are all over the country or do you focus just on
Right?
California?
No, we do, because the laws are throughout the United States, and we have properties in Mexico as well in
Hmm.
Canada. So that the information stays the same. People have traveled to us from outside the United States to learn it, but we also are launching a virtual program. I
Okay.
feel the in-person program is much more impactful, and but we are launching a virtual program for those who are interested. Just go and um, our website and just write us an email saying that you're in the virtual program. We'll put you on that list, and as soon as we launch another one, we'll let you know.
Okay, great. So the website is HomWork, but without the E,
Yes.
HOMWORK.com. Amazing.
Yeah. Yes, it is, and then go to /syndication simplified, but I'll give you that information. But
Okay,
include it in the link, and that way it'll take you directly to that page that has all those details.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Desiree. It was such a pleasure getting to
As
talk to you.
always, I'm always excited to share this with it. As again, realtors are amazing, and I'm going to be able to get you to make sure you wind up with your dreams, fulfilling your dreams.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you learned something new that will inspire you to think about your branding and how you can market yourself a little differently. If you enjoyed this episode, then you're going to love what I have for you, because you don't need to wait to go get extra certifications or to grow and expand your network to get started attracting those new leads right now. You can simply begin by talking about wellness real estate trends and what you've learned on this podcast with others. I mean, this is pretty interesting stuff that no one has heard about, and I have all the tools that can make it even easier for you. Wellness Real Estate Magazine is a brand new wellness lifestyle magazine, and it's the only magazine that brings health and home together. We educate readers on industry trends and how to create a healthier home environment, written by industry experts around the country. And we have 3 covers to choose from: Wellness RE, Healthy Home, and Wellness at Home, so you can easily find one that aligns with your unique brand and messaging. These magazines are the perfect done-for-you tools that help you not only stay top of mind, but they educate and engage your audience, which positions you as an industry expert. Differentiate yourself and grow your brand the easy way. Learn more at healthyhomemedia.com.